And now for our feature presentation.
You're listening to the JB and Goldwater Show. Live, loud, and online.
Puts it up. Yes! There goes Davis. Oh my God! Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game. American football is finally the one. American football has won the Triple Crown. And Barnes hits one hard. It's a deep. It is out of here. Fly ball into right field. She is gone. Unbelievable. Home run for Gibson. And the Dodgers have won the game 5-4. I don't believe what I just saw.
Here are your hosts, Jamie Bradford and Darren Goldwater.
All right, greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon. Welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online. It is 12:02 p.m. on this final day of the month of June 2020. That would be 6 months halfway through the year that just won't end. According to a lot of people, it has been tough to summarize
Understatement.
quickly. Here in 2020. Hopefully today's show won't be too tough, though, and we hope you stick around until we're off the air at 2 p.m. Darren Goldwater, Jamie Bradford. The JV and Goldwater Show is live every day on the Podbean app. If you listen, you can find us anywhere in the world, as long as that app is on your phone, and we certainly appreciate those who do listen in every day. You can also watch us on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter by typing in at JB and Goldwater, jbandgoldwatershow.com if you would like to find all of our available platforms there, find a little bit more about us. Maybe you'd like to check out the menu of DB's Cheesesteaks and some of our partners and things like that. jbandgoldwatershow.com is a good resource for you to use. You can also go there and listen to previous shows like the one yesterday that we had with our friend Blake Cooper, the pitching coach down at the Citadel. Really cool conversation with him as we look back on the 10-year anniversary of the Gamecocks' initial national championship in baseball. Speaking of the Gamecocks, David Cloninger will join us today at 12:30. He had a three-piece series in the Post and Courier this past weekend on that run, and we'll talk to him about that in just a little while. We will also speak with him about South Carolina's relationship with Under Armour. It does not look like that relationship will dissolve on the heels of the information that we have received that Under Armour is looking to terminate its agreements with UCLA and California. We'll also discuss with him the letter that Coach and Athletics Director Ray Tanner issued on Friday, and we'll get a COVID update from him with the fine folks in Columbia. At 1 o'clock today, it is our ACC Coastal Division's over-under win total projections. Just last week, we did the SEC West, and today it's the Coastal, and then later on in the week, we will do our projections for the ACC's Atlantic Division, which, of course, houses Clemson, and the SEC East. And that, of course, is where South Carolina rests. Good afternoon, Dave.
What's going on, man?
Not much. It's a good day. We're just a second. We're going to get to this MLB story. Players beginning to opt out on the 2020 season for a couple of different reasons. We'll also talk about Boomer Esiason and some comments he made about herd immunity. Dennis Dodd, I did read his column about herd immunity. He is one of the senior writers for CBS Sports. And Pat Forty has a very interesting column out about basically tearing college football apart and rebuilding it league by league, and he's got South Carolina and Clemson in a very interesting situation. So we'll have some fun with that today as well. So some good conversation to be had over the next couple of hours. You can be a part of that. 843-321-8893. 843-321-8893. I was on the way over today. I took the long way here. And
Sounds like a country song.
I
Took the long way.
Yeah, I know.
It is a song, I think.
Might be. I'm sure it is somewhere. I passed by DB's, and I thought, so we just had DB's for dinner last week. I was like, well, I think I'm going to do that today again. I hadn't really thought about it, and generally it gets to like 4:30, and Carrie and I are like, what do you want to do for dinner? And I already thought about that. So, Carrie, if you're listening, I've already finalized our supper plans tonight. It will be DB's Cheesesteaks. DB'sCheesesteaks.com if you want to do the same, by the way. Number one cheesesteak in Charleston, voted on by you.
That's right. Number one.
Charleston's choice, baby.
We only partner with the best.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, man. Those guys are just fantastic at DB's Cheesesteaks in Avondale. All right, so Boomer Esiason yesterday, I think it was yesterday morning.
It was, yeah.
On his radio show in Cincinnati, was discussing this topic of herd immunity in college football, and this is basically right about the same time that Dennis Dodd released a column about herd immunity. And so if you don't know what we're talking about here, essentially what it is let's get all of our guys sick so we can get it out of the way. That's pretty much what it means.
Right. So herd immunity goes back a long, long way, and there are a lot of things that we can get into, medically speaking, about what it is and what needs to be in place in order for that to actually be effective. So Dennis Dodd did a nice deep dive on that. Yeah. Boomer kind of shot off the cuff a little bit.
Yeah, definitely two different angles at this. I mean, Dennis Dodd was actually writing a column with the expertise of top medical professionals about herd immunity and the percentages that need to be used for this to work and all this stuff. I don't know. I'm married to a doctor, and I still, my head spins when people get into doctor language. I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Give me the bottom line.
so am I gonna live or not? That's pretty much what I always want to know. Boomer Esiason, we do have his comments, and he's going to play. Darren's going to play them. He was basically pointing. He said, "Don't get me wrong. I'm not necessarily pointing the finger, but I'm just saying, what if these top college football programs are trying to do this?" So here's Boomer Esiason yesterday.
I got to be really careful here, because I don't want to say that this is an accusation. I don't want to. I just was thinking the other day about what is going on with the SEC teams down south, and Clemson included, who's obviously an ACC team. A lot of their players are coming down with COVID-19, oddly enough. So are they trying to herd immunity their teams so these guys can get sick now, as opposed to getting sick during the college football season, if in fact there is one? And I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't put it past any of those guys down there.
All right. So, if you're Dabo Swinney, if you're Nick Saban, if you're Ed Orgeron, those are the three schools that are really getting the headlines here. Most notably, really Clemson and LSU, but Alabama, of course, has had some positive cases. Texas. Mm-hmm. Even though they're not in the SEC. Clemson, of course, not in the SEC either. I don't think that these coaches are rounding up their guys and pushing them to get sick for the purpose of herd immunity at all. I don't think that personally. I think that'd be very silly, because God forbid something happen, you're responsible.
The interesting part to me is, so Boomer is, again, just talking right off the cuff in those comments. Yeah. He is saying, this is what it looks like to me. I have absolutely no information. I'm just going to say this. Dennis Dodd, in his piece, if you kind of marry the two together, Dennis Dodd paints a picture of herd immunity, the idea of it being a very unspoken but understood would be the wrong word, but an underlying thing going on in college football right now that kind of there's a hope that maybe this actually works. I don't think anyone is actively trying to get their guys sick.
I don't think so.
That's crazy.
But from a coaching perspective, do you think there's players out there that might be like, look, if it happens, it happens. I don't maybe not trying to, but being less safe, like, look, I'd rather get it out of the way.
So maybe. The problem is there is absolutely no evidence that says if you get it, you can't get it again.
Right.
And without a vaccine that can get people immune, then you can't get herd immunity. If you those two things combined, you're not going to have herd immunity. So this underlying thought of hope, I guess, in college football, maybe in college football fans too, that hey, let's get this stuff out of the way. It's good that we're seeing it now. It'll just go away. Dennis Dodd's point is don't think that way, because it's not just going to go away, because the herd immunity is not going to take effect.
Right.
So it's a sobering read if you look at it from that standpoint. Dr. Fauci happened to mention herd immunity yesterday also.
Yeah.
So, and the unlikelihood of it in this instance. So it's just interesting that piece comes out, Dodd's piece, and then Boomer says what he says. And they come about it at two different angles, but obviously the same general thought.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a coach at all who is in any way orchestrating some type of herd immunity
program
or, like, that's just really silly to me. I mean, I'm just kind of basing my response to this off of what I know to be true based on the information that I have heard, or that we collectively have heard, which is that these schools are all operating under a very strict, enhanced list of guidelines to keep their players safe and tested and under certain protocols. If something happens, this is what you do, this is how you respond, and things like that. And I just, in my head, I'm not deviating from, they all have a game plan and they're trying to execute that game plan, and I don't think this is going on. Now, again, are there players out there that Darren might be, falsely or have a false impression of, okay, if I get this, it's over with? I'm sure there are.
Definitely.
There's a lot of misinformation that floats around this world daily that's head-scratching, to say the least. I would just recommend to all of those players, listen to your medical professionals that are overseeing the program at your school, and hopefully they have the right information. I'm quite sure that they do, or at least a lot more information than you have.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, look, if you're looking at it from that perspective, if you're looking at it from a conspiracy theorist perspective, which there are plenty of those people out there, I'm sure, that do. I personally am not going to buy into that. I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong, because I don't have any hard evidence to prove that at all. But I don't believe it.
One of the big issues, and it came up in Dodd's article, and it came up in lots of articles recently. Every school has a plan. It's just those plans are not a uniform plan across the landscape of college football. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things that just makes it tough to really understand what's happening around the landscape. I mean, some schools are being very public about what's going on. Some schools are not releasing anything. So it's really hard to get a grasp on it, because you don't know everything from every school, and then you don't know how each individual school is operating and how their plans mesh together.
Yeah, you don't right now, but you will.
Yeah,
but you will, because when these teams start practicing, and look, I do believe that there will be a lot of schools. This is great for some coaches like Muschamp and pretty much anybody that falls out of the Saban tree. They're like, this is wonderful. Another reason to ban media from practice.
That's a good point.
They hate when media's there. Some coaches, don't mind. Spurrier used to open up media and stuff like that. But some guys are like, it's just another reason. But at the same time, the reporters are going to do. They have their ways of finding out who is and is not at practice. So when they start practicing and kids aren't there, you're going to start to piece together. Okay, there's an issue here. We got X number of players out with this school and that school. So you are going to know.
Yes.
I was listening to the radio yesterday, bouncing through some national and some local sports. When I say local, I mean yes here in Charleston, but also just around the state.
Right.
And there's some misinformation floating around out there about South Carolina, which is basically people are trying to figure out why aren't they releasing information, and some people just don't know. Well, David Cloninger, who's going to be with us in a little bit, sat right on our station or on our show last week and said Will Muschamp asked the parents if he would like them to release the COVID information, and they said no. Mm-hmm. And so Will Muschamp sided with the parents, said, okay, if you don't want to, we won't release it. So that's why they're not releasing
That's
it.
right.
So other schools have decided to do so, like Clemson. I guess they're doing this about pretty much weekly, essentially. What it looks like.
Yeah, what it feels like.
Some schools are and some schools aren't. I did see on social media, the cesspool of social media yesterday, which I just despise.
You're like seconds away from deactivating your Twitter account, too, aren't you?
I just can't, because we get so much information. I know. But I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
But I did see, well, of course, the NCAA, like you said a minute ago, but you didn't say it this way, but the NCAA, they don't have an organized system. I mean, this is their job. Well, now, wait a second. Hold on. We're going to criticize the NCAA because we don't want them to rule certain things in sports, but then we want them to rule certain things in sports. Like, come on, let's make up our minds here. Mm-hmm. All right? Like, do we want them to be in charge or not? Okay? I mean, if you're one of those people who's criticizing them because they don't have some guideline for every school in the country, then don't be quick to criticize them when you think they're overstepping their boundaries for something that you don't agree with. I mean, come on, man. Like, they're either going to rule or they're not going to rule. I mean, I don't think they should in this instance. What's going on here might be different than what's going on at Wyoming. So your protocols might need to be a little bit different. Because there's so much at play. Like we've already talked about all this, but you've got local laws, you got state laws, you got conference laws. I mean, you have different things that are in play at different universities. And so, no, I don't think the NCAA should say this is how you have to do it, because it might need to be enhanced somewhere else. It might not need to be that stringent here.
And finances could dictate some of that as
Totally.
well. The Citadel, when they were bringing their
Absolutely.
guys back, they even said, look, because of the size of the Citadel and our capabilities and our weight room and housing ability, like we can't phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 like a South Carolina can, because we don't have the space. So we'll phase it in, but we're going to phase it in differently.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, there are way too many moving parts with the sizes of these universities, Darren, to be able to accommodate one standard coming out of Indianapolis, which, again, they don't have their pulse on every local community. So I think that would be totally unfair. I mean, how's that any different from them, basically trying to dictate what market value is with name, image, and likeness? Market value in Columbia is going to be different than market value in Statesboro, Georgia. So,
Or L.A. Or
right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. I mean, so I think that they've done this the right way, and we'll just have to see where it goes. But no, I'm not buying into herd immunity in any way, shape, or form. I am buying into players opting out. Right now, there's 4 that we know of. Mike Leake, he is a righty with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Ryan Zimmerman, of course, with the Nationals. Joe Ross, also with the Nationals, 27-year-old right-handed pitcher. And Ian Desmond, the latest outfitter with the Rockies, who put up a very lengthy post on social media yesterday about a bunch of reasons, mainly because of his wife, his family. His wife is pregnant with their 5th child, and then he was talking about racial injustice and things of that nature. So where I'm going with this, though, first of all, this is not going to be the end of this list. There are going to be more. It's their right to do it. The question that I have, which I had to look up just a little while ago, is who does and does not forfeit their salaries. So if you opt out because of health issues specific to you, you will still be paid.
If you're what they're deeming high risk.
If you are high risk, correct. If you have a family member whom is high risk or you opt out for any other reason, you will not be paid. So in the case of Ian Desmond, he will not receive his $5.5 million this year, which is prorated from $15 million already. Mm-hmm. So he's not only losing 15, he's not even losing $10 million. He's now losing $5 million. So he's going to lose his entire 2020 salary.
Yep, and so will Zim. So will Zimmerman.
So will Zimmerman. And I think his mom. Was it his mom?
It's his mom. His wife is also pregnant, so he doesn't want. And he's been outspoken about this from the very beginning. So the fact that Ryan Zimmerman has opted out is not a shock. There's understandably question: is that the last time that we've seen Ryan Zimmerman play? It's possible.
It is. Let me throw a curveball at you. If the National League institutes permanently the DH, is that the last time we see him play?
It gives him another leg to stand on if there is the DH. Mm-hmm. He made it clear that, look, I'm not retiring, but I think he's been in the league for 20 years. It'll be the next season will be season 21 for him.
Wow. That is hard to believe.
Yeah, so someone is really going to have to want Ryan Zimmerman, and he's only been a National. I mean, he is. Remember the first game the Nationals played, he walked it off at RFK. I mean, he has some of the most iconic hits and plays in Nationals history. Had some massive home runs in the postseason last year. Mm-hmm. Joe Ross was the starter who pitched Game 5 when Scherzer couldn't go, and was scheduled to be the Nationals' number 5 guy this year.
Right.
So it like you said, it's not the end. We're going to see more players decide, it's just not worth it from a health standpoint for me, for my family, for anyone around me. Mm-hmm. And like you said, for Desmond, I'd encourage you to go on social media. He put it on Instagram, but it's everywhere now.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
A lot of it for him was, look, baseball is a game that's supposed to bring everybody together. And while there are health issues, at the time that we're in this country, baseball has not been bringing people together racially. He's like, so we're looking at two different things here, and it's important for me to be home with my family, to answer the questions from my kids, to answer the questions from my wife, to be around. He's down in Sarasota, so he'll be in Sarasota Little Leagues and whatnot, helping those guys out, and he feels that's where he is most impactful now, and that's. By the way, a former National as well, and one of the guys who was regarded as one of the all-time great people as well.
Well, he said something interesting, did Ian Desmond, that I actually really agree with because I've been in this, and I understand it totally. I've been, as a player and as a coach, involved in travel baseball, and he mentioned that he went to the park he grew up playing in Sarasota, and I think it was kind of run down, and he kind of reflected back on some of his memories growing up, good and bad, and kind of looking at what it is today. So like recreation department leagues have long served every community to the very best of their ability. They'll provide you recreation departments. I'll give so many tips of the cap to guys right here locally, like in Mount Pleasant, like Ryan Johnson, who pitched at the College of Charleston, Carl Ankerson when he ran that department, guys like that. Johnny Cribb, who used to run that department over there, is now the I forget his exact title, but very high up with the Berkeley County in government. So, and these are just guys that I just happen to know, but
right.
But there's recreation departments have always tried to serve the community. They'll give you a helmet, they'll give you a bat. If they need to find a glove for you to play with, they'll find a glove. They ask you to go out and try to find your pants and cleats and stuff like that. But they'll help you out if you don't have something. They'll figure it out for you, so you can play. You pay your $25, $35, $50, whatever it is, and you go play. But over the last 20 years, we've seen this turn in travel baseball, and I'm not going to get off on a real tangent here because we're short on time. This is totally not a conversation that needs to be had all day, but over the last 20 years, we've seen this turn in baseball, youth baseball, to the travel model, which is not a bad model. It's at all. It's provided an incredible platform for so many players: black, white, Asian, Mexican American, any race out there has played in travel baseball, any color, everything. And it's provided opportunities that so many kids never had before. But where it's also turned, and it has left, and I would call this a racial divide, is where the have-nots cannot participate unless there's somebody willing to go out and basically pay for them to participate, and that is not widespread. And you'll see this in tournaments everywhere, Darren. And you can ask guys like Randy Carlson and John Rose. I'm not going to put words in their mouth at all, but it's not cheap to play in these tournaments for these teams to get in them. There's a lot of travel involved. There is something that you pay for. You pay for a lot of exposure. There's a lot of kids who've had college opportunities and things like that because of this exposure. So the price that they paid was well worth it. But then there's a lot of kids who can't afford to pay that price, and they get stuck playing in leagues that just aren't very good, and they kind of get forgotten about, or maybe they happen to make their high school teams and things like that, and things will work out. But yeah, there are communities that are suffering because of this, and I would love to see what Ian Desmond does with this in Sarasota. As a big leaguer, he's got a bunch of money. Maybe he can come up with some type of plan or program that can help contribute to grow the sport in communities who can't afford to play it. I think that'd be wonderful to see. I would love to see that. I want more kids playing baseball.
Absolutely.
I'm a baseball guy, so I'm biased. You're a baseball guy, so you're biased. And I gladly say that. I want more kids on the baseball field than on the basketball court. I want more kids on the baseball field than on the soccer field. I want more kids on the baseball field than on the lacrosse field, which is, by the way, another expensive sport. I want more kids on the baseball field than everywhere. I love baseball. That's me, and it's okay to say that. But it's not a cheap sport to play.
Yep.
In today's world, it might have been 50, 60 years ago, and beyond that, it might have been 20 years ago. My mom gave up everything for me to play travel baseball. I mean, she pinched every penny together she could to afford for me to do it, and that cost us in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, she's not able to go to work sometimes because she's traveling to God knows where.
Yeah.
To get you there.
Absolutely.
And my parents did the same thing. I oftentimes have to catch myself because I'm almost about to say I don't remember a single game that either or mom or dad was not at. But there was one, and that's why I do remember it because for whatever reason it was just like I don't know how many games I played across all sports. There was one that they were not at, and maybe there were others that I just don't remember, but that's my recollection of it. And the sacrifice in order to be there, not just financially, but in whatever's going on in their world.
Yep.
It's immense.
It's immense. You can't solve every problem, Darren. We know that. There's some things are just going to be what they're going to be. I understand that. But if there are more Ian Desmonds out there, like Cal Ripken has done, Cal Ripken has done it right here locally, up in Latson. Went and refurbished an entire ballpark up there, just a few years ago. Mm-hmm. There are people who are trying to get into these communities and get some things cleaned up and provide more opportunity for kids to play the game of baseball and stuff. And so if that's what he's planning to spend his time doing instead of playing himself, hats off to you, my friend.
Yep.
I'm all for it. And obviously protecting his family because of COVID.
Yeah, and don't bet against Ian Desmond.
I would, but what you said a minute ago is right. He is one of the good guys in this sport. He is. His teammates have always respected him, his coaches or managers. I'm all for that. I am all for that, and I hope maybe he creates some type of model that we can all get behind in communities all across America and across the world.
Yeah,
for that matter.
And remember Friday, Rafael Esparza, who's our Vegas insider, mybookie.ag, he said that he was just waiting on some confirmation. He's already hearing from some names from the LA side of things. He didn't specify Dodgers or Angels, but it's not done. It's not done with these four that announced yesterday.
No, there's going to be some big names too. No, absolutely, it's coming. We have a big name coming too up next, as a matter of fact. That's David Cloninger. He is with the Post and Courier. We have a lot of updates to get to from South Carolina, so he'll join us next on the JB and Goldwater Show.
DB's Cheesesteaks, the tastiest, juiciest, and now award-winning cheesesteaks in the Low Country. DB's Cheesesteaks delivers, and not just in quality. Download DoorDash, Uber Eats, or your delivery app of choice and have it dropped off at your doorstep. Original chicken, buffalo chicken, even pizza cheesesteaks, not to mention incredible cheeseburgers, massive hot dogs, and dynamite hoagies. It's all there for you and your family. DB's Cheesesteaks in West Ashley. dbscheesesteaks.com.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Low Country. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
As businesses start to open up around South Carolina, we have Ryan Nelson back in here to tell us about Dog and Duck Family Pubs, the 3 locations, and some new hours going on. What's up?
That's right. We now offer indoor dining and patio seating outside. The new hours are Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., and then Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. now. Slowly getting back into the normal routine, or so what we think, and we hope everybody comes out and supports local businesses like Dog and Duck.
And you still have family special meals as well?
That's right. Always the family-style meals, and you can always get curbside pickup or carry out. If you're not ready to venture outside yet, we're here for you.
Hey everybody, what's going on? This is singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, but whenever I want to keep up with the South Carolina Gamecocks or even the Clemson Tigers, I can still tune in to JB and Goldwater because they are always live, loud, and online.
And I sing hallelujah, I do believe it's happening.
All right, 12:32. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online. If you listen on the Podbean app, thank you very much. Of course, you can watch us every day on our YouTube channel, on Facebook, and on Twitter as well, just by typing in at JB and Goldwater. At DCPNC is where you can find this gentleman on Twitter. He is David Cloninger. He is the excellent, handsome, award-winning writer for the Post and Courier covering the South Carolina Gamecocks, and based on the series that was distributed this past weekend on South Carolina's run to the 2010 National Championship, he deserves all of those titles. Hey, man.
Hey, David.
You there? Have we lost him?
No, we haven't lost him. I see him. He's right there. Maybe his phone's muted or something.
I have yet to hear David's voice.
Me too.
The gentle voice of David Cloninger. Maybe we can continue to work on that. But I would recommend, if you haven't read his piece from this, it's a 3-part series on the Gamecocks' run to the 2010 National Championship. We referenced it yesterday when we had Blake Cooper on, who was the winner in Game 1 of the championship series against UCLA. We referenced this. It's a wonderfully written piece in the Post and Courier, and I would encourage all of you to read that if you have not, again, by going to postandcourier.com or all of our Twitter pages. We've all retweeted this and things like that. All right, we have him now?
Think so.
Yes, I can. Thank you.
No, we do not. That's the problem. Right. So I've got the phone number that you gave me. He's got his, wife's phone?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, so let me give you the quick backstory for DC. So his phone, I guess, exploded or fell apart or something a few days ago, which is not good when you are in today's world as a sports writer, and because it is issued by his employer, which happens to be the Post and Courier. He is traveling down here to pick up a new cell phone, so we're having to reach him a little bit of a different way today.
It's possible, because he is making that drive, that he's just in one of those areas where he's not getting any service.
Right.
Because that phone picked up right away twice.
Okay.
So we'll shoot him back here in a second.
Okay. All right. So we are going to get David. Don't worry. Coach Tanner issued a letter on Friday. If you are in the Gamecock Club, you probably received this letter. Us, the media, we also received an email from Coach Tanner, basically updating us on South Carolina and what they're doing. And so we're going to get an update on that with him, a COVID update. That we'll talk about this baseball piece, and also we're going to discuss the relationship with Under Armour in South Carolina. Do we have him now?
We think we have him now.
There he is. Hey, DC.
Hey, guys. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Well, we didn't want to give away too much of your personal life, but we did at least give the backstory on the phone issue, so we understand.
Yeah, it's been quite a week over at the Cloninger house here when it comes to work equipment. So hopefully we'll get it all resolved today.
So wait, your computer busted last week when we talked to you, and now your phone's down too?
Yep.
Oh.
So they fixed the computer on Wednesday. That was great. And then Thursday night, my phone just decided not to connect to the network anymore.
Well,
and it comes to find out that Verizon just said, yeah, we're not covering that model of phone anymore, which is fine. I get it. But, I would have appreciated some advance notice before you just cut it off.
That's right.
Hey, that's a whole other topic.
DC, before we get to just a well-done job by you on the looking back on the 2010 run for South Carolina, let's touch on Under Armour real quick and their relationship with South Carolina. Yesterday we had Darren Heitner on with Heitner Legal out of the state of Florida. He's, I think, St. Petersburg, Florida is where he's located, or Fort Lauderdale,
I think it's
Florida.
Fort Lauderdale, yeah.
And Darren is all over this situation with Under Armour attempting to execute terminate their contract between them and UCLA and them and California. And so, obviously, it comes here in the great state of South Carolina to the forefront of our minds is the Gamecocks. They have a pretty lucrative deal with Under Armour as well. What is their relationship like? I know yesterday we did get a little bit of reassurance from Columbia that, no, we're fine. We're moving forward with Under Armour. There are no worries at all. But what is their relationship with Under Armour, and do you expect any hiccups in the future?
I mean, they like their relationship. That's why they re-upped the contract a few years ago, and I believe it runs through 24, if not 25. But they like the money they get. They like the gear they get. The company's been very good to USC. Pretty much every team has at least the option to get a new-looking uniform every year, if you want to. And some of them take advantage of that. Some of them don't. But, that comes with the shoes, the warm-up suits, the actual game day uniforms, the backpacks, everything. So they're really happy with Under Armour. And as of right now, it's not even an intimate thing or looking further into the future. But they're satisfied with their relationship. They don't expect that to change on either end. I can't speak for what Under Armour's doing with UCLA, but I know that the numbers of that deal were pretty big. And with Under Armour having some financial difficulties even before the pandemic hit, perhaps they're looking at themselves and saying, do we really want to tie ourselves down to this kind of contract? So we'll see how all that goes. But as far as South Carolina's concerned, they're happy with Under Armour, and Under Armour's happy with them. I don't expect that to change.
Out of curiosity, one of the statements that Under Armour made was that they had not received the marketing benefits from UCLA per their contract. And so that leaves the majority of us to speculate exactly what those benefits may be. Do we know what those are with South Carolina? Are they strictly looking at this just from a financial perspective? And I'm speaking of Under Armour here, where they look at the return, basically how many times is that Gamecock logo sold on an assortment of products, or are there other things like public appearances and things like that? Can you speculate on any of that?
I'm sure that plays a part in it, just how much each logo is sold, because not only with the UCLA deal, but they removed all California Golden Bears merchandise from their website the other day. So I'm sure that does play a part into it. Of course, South Carolina's had a much longer relationship with Under Armour than UCLA or Cal, so of course they would have more merchandise numbers. But, you guys have been to the games. You've seen the big billboards up on the corner of, Shop Road or is Bluff Road and Assembly, right where it turns to the George Rogers Boulevard.
Yep.
They used to have a big Under Armour billboard out there. Those are the kind of things with the marketing. Of course, you have the big Under Armour tag hanging off merchandise in the bookstores, that kind of thing. So I'm sure that all of that, the marketing, plays into that, saying, like, we're going to supply you, and we're doing most of the heavy lifting, but you got to help us out a little bit by doing this and that. So who knows how that went down with UCLA and Cal, but I know that I've seen a lot of those billboards and advertisements here around Columbia. And, again, they've had no problems with USC in the past, because if they had, they wouldn't have re-upped the contract a few years ago.
David Cloninger, Post and Courier, he's with us right now. You had a 3-part series on the College World Series championship, those teams for South Carolina. You previewed it a little bit when you were on with us last time, but now that we have cleared the final day, which was yesterday, of 10 years to the day of the national championship, the first one, what was the most enjoyable part of writing that series? I mean, was it a conversation? Was it a story you were told? What sticks out to you about writing that series?
Well, there were quite a few things. I mean, I was there for every step of that run that year. I was lucky enough to have a gig where, I got to cover almost all of the baseball games. And through 70 games, I did 57 of them that year. And then, through in 2011, 2012, it's about the same ratio. So just catching up with all those guys. I mean, some of them I'm still very close with, and we talk regularly. Some of them, I just had lost touch with them or what have you. So really finding out and just getting to talk to them again about their memories, and at the same time getting to relive my own memories of that run was probably the best part. I mean, I still have my scorebooks from that season and that Omaha run. Still remember everything that went on during games where we weren't at the stadium. I mean, we went to a Tom Petty concert. A bunch of us would get together and play catch. Just a local Sandlot field in Omaha. We ate great the whole time. I mean, just reliving that run and seeing just the videos and all the games again was probably the most enjoyable part. It's a lot of work, but it's work I didn't mind in the least doing, and I'm glad I got to catch up with 14, 15, 16 of the principals, and I was able to find every one of those players and what they're doing now. One of them was pretty, hermitish about getting back in touch with me, but I did find him, and that was reflected in where they now live.
David, I mentioned on our program yesterday that Game 2 of that UCLA series, of course, referencing the game in which Witt walked it off down the right field line. Since then, we've seen 2 more national championships in this state. Gamecocks are going to win another the next year, and then Coastal Carolina a few years later. But I told Darren yesterday, I said that is the way that I view this. That is the most important college baseball game ever played in the state of South Carolina. How do you look at that game?
Well, it's hard to argue that, Jamie, and just looking at it and how they've had the chance to do it, and it all set up so perfectly for them. And then, of course, that started or was.
We lost him for a second.
Yeah, it was terrific. I mean, obviously people knew that South Carolina played pretty good baseball, but this is the first time that it had a trophy and a championship beside it. And then, they backed it up by winning it in 11 and getting to the championship series in 2012. So it was an amazing moment, and it really kind of, I don't want to use the term validated because the program was great before then, well before then, but that kind of put the stamp on it and said, it's like Ray Tanner said when talking to me about it, we had that kind of reputation that they were really good, but they just couldn't quite get over the hump. They at that point they had 3 runner-up finishes and a 3rd place, and it was like they'll get there and they'll stick around, but they just can't quite win it. And then all of a sudden, Witt's in the box saying, "Well, I got a chance to do something here." And as you guys know, it wasn't a great pitch that he hit, but he went down there and got it and sliced enough of it over into right field, and they won the game. And I remember thinking, as frantic on deadline as I was, no one could take this one away. They've scaled the top of the mountain, and this will be there forever.
What's interesting. So we had Blake on yesterday. I've known Blake Cooper for a long time. One of the great guys in the history of South Carolina baseball, doing a wonderful job as a pitching coach at the Citadel. And I asked Blake, I said, all right, so, go back and put your hat on as a player, but also keep it on as a coach now. And think back to that moment. And DC, I want to get you're a baseball guy, so I want to get your thoughts on this. So I threw this at Blake. I said, why did they pitch to him? Because if you think about it, so Bauer's hot in the pen, and you've got Wingo on third, and you've got Witt at the plate. So Witt means nothing. Jackie Bradley's on. I get it. They're coming into Murderers Row for South Carolina, but Witt means nothing. Jackie means nothing. Bauer's hot and ready to go. So why on earth did they not walk Witt, walk Jackie, and then bring up Walker, because you did have one out, and put Walker into a double play situation, who's not fleet of foot at all, and bring Bauer in to face Walker. And Blake did say, we were talking about that in the dugout. We assumed, okay, they're going to walk Witt here, they're going to walk Jackie, and they're going to pitch to Christian, and they're probably going to go to the Bauer kid because they didn't know much about him in the bullpen. Of course, that's not the way it worked out. But what did you think when you were sitting in the press box at Rosenblatt?
I couldn't believe that they didn't do it either. And my opinion then remains the same today, and it's the same opinion that Whit Merrifield said when I got in touch with him. And, bless his heart, he was kind enough to give me a call back even when he was preparing to go out to spring training with the Royals. But he said, I had no nerves because I had no intention of getting the pitch to hit. I mean, they were going to walk me, and they were going to walk Jackie, and then bring in Bauer to face Walker, which Walker had a great series, and Walker was a great hitter, but he was a freshman. And why wouldn't you go with Trevor Bauer against that guy? Mm-hmm. I mean, that would give you the best chance to win. So as he said, I knew that that's what they were going to do because it's what I would have done. And I still would have done the same 10 years later. Obviously, I'm glad they didn't take that chance. It would have made the most sense to me because what really messed the whole thing up on UCLA's end was that wild pitch or pass ball, the one to Marzilli that he wanted to bunt and it hit off the catcher's shin guard and gave Wingo free second base.
Right.
Because now you're all screwed up because you know he's going to bunt into third with one out. You're like, you better go ahead and hedge your bets, play the differences because this guy's getting tired and he's not going to get these guys on a strikeout or flyout. So as much as I hate intentionally walking anybody and especially intentionally loading the bases, I'd have done it and said just hopefully bring in Bauer, he'll roll a ground ball, and Walker will hit a double play ball. Or you strike him out and then there's two outs and you get a little bit more root and breed. That's what I'd have done. Absolutely.
I totally agree. I totally agree with that. Early in that series, DC, well, I say early in the series, early in game one, specifically here in the first three innings, if you were a South Carolina fan where you feel like traditionally everything has always gone against you, you had to get the feeling, wait a second, we might win this son of a gun because – as Coach Tanner had referenced a couple of times, a few duck snorts landed their way. UCLA made a couple of big boo-boos. I think it was the second baseman. I think Garrett Cole threw one away. I mean, it was just really weird to start game one. All of a sudden, it's 5-0 Carolina after the third inning, and you just kind of started to get the sense, okay, they've knocked out Clemson. They were down. Already had a loss in this sucker. Clemson's set to go to the championship series. They tattoo their rivals and send them packing, and then they get here in the first three innings. It's all going their way. Did you start to get the sense like, oh my God, this thing might actually happen in the next couple of nights with the way that this series has started?
Well, Jamie, in 2010, just as I've been coaching for a while and have been watching South Carolina athletics for a while, I don't know if I ever felt that way about it. Because I was like, things are really going their way, but it's baseball and it's going to even up. If you'd asked me about 2011, for the only time growing up watching Carolina sports, covering it for a number of years now, only time before or since when I thought, you know what, they're not going to blow it this time, it's meant to be, was when Jake Williams threw out that runner at the plate in 2011. Because I was like, it is meant to be. There is no way that they could screw this up. Jake Williams had an awful arm. Great guy, awful arm. He hadn't had an assist in his career. And all of a sudden he throws it perfect on the bounce. And for whatever reason, Cody Dent slides inside, and that ball went right to Barry, and he put the tag on. I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. This is a charmed life for the only time before or since at South Carolina athletics. So in 2010, I was in the press box, so I didn't really hear the announcers. I heard about it after the fact, but it still stuns me that all they ever talk about in that game during the game is the misfortune of Garrett Cole. Yeah. It's like, look, he was firing fastballs, but they were coming in with no movement. Mm-hmm. So, it's like Ferguson Jenkins it was said about Ferguson Jenkins to a hitter that always tattooed him. It's like, how do you explain, you hit Fergie so well? And he says, well, hell yes, I can explain it. Fergie lays him right in there, and I lay him right back out. If it don't move, you're not really throwing anything. So USC was hitting them, and the whole time the announcers talked about that, instead of talking about the kid and Blake Cooper from nowhere, South Carolina, Nice's population 347, still only one stoplight in the whole town, and that kid was just shoving it against UCLA. I mean, I know he wanted to pitch a complete game, but it wasn't in the cards that night. But, man, I mean, he had nothing really in the tank, or so he told me. But he had pinpoint control, and it was just darting, diving everywhere. He didn't throw it that fast, but if you could throw a fastball with a lot of sink, that's what got him out. And, it will be the hill that I die on. Blake Cooper should have been SEC Pitcher of the Year that year. Nothing against Drew Pomeranz, who had slightly better stats. But Drew Pomeranz is 6'4" and looks like a first-round pitcher. Blake Cooper's 5'10" and only pitches like a first-round pitcher.
Well said,
David. Yesterday, actually, Blake Cooper told us about him having nothing in the tank. He said, I was out there trying to long toss. I went to like 120 feet, and then it was Calvi who went out to him and said, listen, man, like, I forget the exact quote that he gave him to fire him up, but it was something like, good versus great. Great ones always rise to the occasion. And then he said, somehow, some way, the ball never felt better coming off his fingertips than it did in that specific game. So whatever Calvi said worked.
He said the same thing to me.
Yeah.
It was one of those charmed things because, Blake had already thrown twice. He was dog-tired, but he knew he was the best option. And he said every start of that season, I wanted this. I wanted to be the bulldog, to be the dependable guy. And like Calvi told me, Blake was always dependable, but he was the Sunday guy. But he showed what you can do if you really put your mind to it. I mean, he got stronger over the off season, and he battled his butt off. And when they told him at the beginning of the year, well, Sam's kind of coming off a shoulder injury, we'll probably, put you back at the Saturday role when he gets better. It's like, okay. And then he never pitched bad enough to relinquish it enough. As he said, as a pitching coach now, I get it. Who are you going to put out there on Friday night? The guy who could throw 98 or me? Well, I wanted to make sure they didn't have that choice, and he didn't. I mean, that kid pitched his butt off that year and is often the unspoken hero of that run just because he was overshadowed by what Michael Roth did and Christian's bomb at the beach and everything else that happened. Man, Blake Cooper, man, he's one of my heroes. The way that guy pitched that whole season was just incredible to watch.
Absolutely.
You had an article today. I'm switching gears a little bit, but staying on baseball, I did not know the story of Tina Plu Whitlock, who was at South Carolina and is now set to be on the Cardinals staff. I don't know which level she'll be at, but she will be a female in professional, obviously men's baseball. Take me through writing that story. Maybe I missed it initially if it had come out before, but take us through Tina Plu Whitlock's story here.
Well, if you don't know who Tina Plu Whitlock is, she was a former softball All-American at USC. She was a catcher, two-time All-American in 95 and 97, and her senior year was the year of South Carolina's greatest softball season when they had Trinity Johnson pitching, and they went 63-5 and got to the Women's College World Series in 1997 there. So a great player, and she coached softball for a long focus was always to get into baseball coaching, and she kind of got her name into the loop. And I got told about it in February, right when spring training was starting, that she was going to be on the Cardinal staff. Now, she was promised a role with one of their minor league teams. She wasn't going to be on the big club, but still, she's one of, I think, only 5 women that are going to be Major League Baseball coaches at some level. So, of course, the pandemic kind of scuttled those plans. But in remaining in touch with Tina, she's hoping for the best. There's supposed to be an announcement today about the minor league baseball season.
Yeah.
And the announcement that everybody expects is that there's not going to be one. So we'll see how that's going to affect things. But I know that the Cardinals are very impressed with Tina Plu Whitlock, as they should be. So hopefully this is only going to delay her journey to the major leagues a little bit more. She'll be the first female coach in the Cardinals organization. There was a woman there before her, but she was the strength coach. So Tina will actually be the first on-field coach in our organization, and we'll see how it goes. But when the season starts, if it does start, the Major League season, there will be a woman on staff for the Major League team with the San Francisco Giants. And that woman, Alyssa Nacken, actually played for Tina Plew-Whitlock on a traveling all-star softball team a few years ago.
Wow.
So
Cool as that.
it was a real neat story. I got told about it in February, and then the season got canceled. I'm like, well, hopefully I'll get to revisit it. And I'm glad that we got to run it in the paper right before today's announcement, because that just sets up for a hopefully great follow-up in that, oh, yeah, I'm getting invited to spring training or whatever. So we'll see how her journey goes. But in any case, it's a trailblazing moment. It's
a great article, postandcourier.com. For those who've not read this yet, it is well worth the read. Also, you can find it. I just retweeted it at DC PNC David Cloninger with the Post Courier. All right, about 3 minutes left here. I want to get a quick update. Anything new on the COVID front within the athletics department?
It's the same thing, guys.
Okay.
They're not releasing the test. I happen to know that, of course, there have been some positives because you can't really avoid it, but nobody's hospitalized, and that's the good news. So it's one thing where, of course, they're starting to draw some heat now about not being more transparent. I do agree with that because, it's not like you're going to release the names of anybody who's infected, but the fact is that they want to keep it in-house. The parents want that to be kept in-house, so it's going to be kept in-house. Now, there's starting to be some more athletes who are getting on campus now. Both the soccer teams and the volleyball team have reported back to campus as well. The basketball teams are still out. They'll be here later in the month. But if this thing keeps going up, Jamie, we might have to see, and this is across the country, not just USC, where they might have to pause some of these workouts. It's just, we're all kind of flying blind now. You're hoping for the best outcome, but you have no idea what that's going to be.
And Coach Tanner sent a letter that we all read on Friday, and the two quotes I pull from this are: we are trying to determine what the new, quote, normal will be, and then also, at this point, we do not know what the 2020 football season will look like, but our goal is to communicate the plan for the season in early August. So essentially, in about 5 weeks, we're going to know. I guess my question is, what does that encompass? Is he referencing fans in the stands? Whether we play or all of the above?
I think that they will have a definite plan for how many fans are going to be let in and who will be first in line to get the tickets. But then again, Jamie, it's all just going to be a plan. They might have to revisit it later on because they can say this is what we're going to do, but if circumstances dictate a change, they're going to have to change. And I think I've said this on the program before. What happens if they have everything in place and everything's fine here, but a day before the game, Coastal Carolina, the first opponent, calls them and says, hey, we've had an outbreak here and we can't come.
Yep.
Well, what happens then? So I'm sure that they'll have a plan and it'll be the best possible plan, but it can still change, any day, any minute, just because we're dealing with such an unknown here.
David Cloninger, one of the best writers you can read from, at DCPNC on Twitter. He covers the Gamecocks as well as anybody I've ever seen with the Post and Courier. Again, I encourage you to read this wonderful story that Darren just mentioned a moment ago on Tina Plew-Whitlock, currently coaching in the Cardinals organization, also the series that was released this past weekend on the Gamecocks' run to the 2010 National Championship. Hope that phone gets working soon, brother.
Me too, buddy. Me too.
Yeah, guard the TV, man. Like your computer, your phone. Guard the TV.
That's right. Don't forget the OtterBox with the phone. Okay.
There you go. Yeah. Just as long as my son keeps smiling, I'll get through it.
Yeah, there you go.
No doubt. Thank you so much. Safe travels to and from Charleston, and we'll talk to you next week.
No problem, guys. Thanks for having me.
There you go. Thank you, David Cloninger. All right, time for a timeout. Hour 1. It's in the books. When we return, part 2 of a 4-part series for Darren and I. Today, we will look at the over-under win totals for the teams in the ACC Coastal. We've already covered the West and the SEC, ACC Atlantic, SEC East, coming up later on this week. But today, it's the Coastal Division, and Darren and I will take our turn at that when we return.
DB's Cheesesteaks, the tastiest, juiciest, and now award-winning cheesesteaks in the Low Country. DB's Cheesesteaks delivers, and not just in quality. Download DoorDash, Uber Eats, or your delivery app of choice and have it dropped off at your doorstep. Original chicken, buffalo chicken, even pizza cheesesteaks, not to mention incredible cheeseburgers, massive hot dogs, and dynamite hoagies. It's all there for you and your family. DB's Cheesesteaks in West Ashley. dbscheesesteaks.com.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Lowcountry. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
As businesses start to open up around South Carolina, we have Ryan Nelson back in here to tell us about Dog and Duck Family Pubs, the 3 locations, and some new hours going on. What's up?
That's right. We now offer indoor dining and patio seating outside. The new hours are Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., and then Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. now. Slowly getting back into the normal routine, or so what we think, and we hope everybody comes out and supports local businesses like Dog and Duck.
And you still have family special meals as well?
That's right. Always the family-style meals, and you can always get curbside pickup or carry out. If you're not ready to venture outside yet, we're here for you.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Clamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the National Anthem.
Live, loud, and online.
All right, 1:02. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online. Is our friend, the unofficial, official voice of our program, Patrick Davis, just said here on this final day of June. Welcome to the end of the month. Tomorrow, happy birthday, Mom. Tomorrow's my mom's birthday, so it will be July the 1st, and we'll be moving right along to what will be the 2020 football season. Darren Goldwater, Jamie Bradford, one final hour to go today. In just a moment, we're going to get into our over-unders on the ACC's, in the ACC's Coastal Division, the Atlantic, the SEC East, coming up later on this week. Thanks to David Cloninger for joining us in that last segment. If you're watching us, thank you so much. If you're not, you can do it. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. That's where you can see our smiling, beautiful faces every day between noon and 2 p.m. If you're watching and would rather listen and don't want to look at us anymore, I don't blame you. Just download the Podbean app, and that is where you will find our voices for a couple of hours a day. You can also go back and listen and watch all of our former programs by going to – let me summarize this really quickly. If you're like, where do I find all this crap? jbandgoldwatershow.com.
There you go.
Very simple. YouTube's right there. You can click the Podbean app right there. All of the little symbols right there for Instagram, Twitter, all that junk. It's all right there.
All that junk. Yeah,
it's all right there.
You can just Google JB and Goldwater, and that's where we are, JB, across the world.
It's pretty simple. JB and Goldwater, JBandGoldwaterShow.com. All right, to the Coastal Division we go. Of the four that we discussed this week, probably the one that is most up in the air, because for the last 7 years,
nice way of putting it.
Yeah, of all 7 teams have won this division over the last 7 seasons. So somebody this year is going to win it for a second time. Congratulations to whomever that may be. It is a very interesting division because the teams that were at the bottom of this division last year, Duke and Georgia Tech, are very interesting teams this year. And I'll tell you why in a minute. The teams that are projected to be, or the teams that finished at the top of this division last year, one in particular, I don't think is going to be there this year. And the teams that finished right in the middle of it, probably going to be up there and have a pretty good shot. So let's get moving along here, and we'll start with Duke, the Duke Blue Devils. Last year, Duke finishes 5-7, 3-5 in the ACC. All right, so David Cutcliffe has done an amazing job at Duke. Very similar, even though he hasn't won an ACC championship, to what Steve Spurrier did. You look at it and you go, wow, he's done a nice job. Main difference here is David Cutcliffe is not moving on to Florida when he's done coaching in Durham. They started off well, 5-2, matter of fact, or excuse me, 4-2, with a win over Georgia Tech, and then offensively, they just could not get it together. They had quarterback issues. I think they had an injury at quarterback, and just couldn't figure it out. They did win their final game of the season against Miami, and believe me, we have plenty on Miami coming up here. So they come into 2020 off of this 5-7 season, and I feel very good about where they are at quarterback because their quarterback is Chase Bryce, who is eligible to play immediately because he graduated at Clemson, and he's ready to go, waiting for his chance. He's a smart kid. He's a talented kid, and I think he's going to play very well.
And Cutcliffe is the quarterback guru, so this didn't just happen that Bryce fits in over at Duke.
That's exactly right. Where it's going to be how good are they up front? You know, what is the talent like around him? Here's right. I mean, we all know this, right? I mean, what surrounds him offensively is nothing close to what surrounded him at Clemson. So he's going to have to do more, as opposed to if he was the starting quarterback for any length of time at Clemson, which he wasn't. He would have been able to rely on a lot of what was around him for him to add on to his success. Mm-hmm. It's a good start for Duke. Middle Tennessee State, although Rick Stock still has a good offense, the Blue Raiders, they can score. They just can't stop anybody. Elon, Charlotte, Pittsburgh. It is very realistic that they could start 4-0 or even 5-0 with Wake Forest coming to town as that 5th game on October the 3rd. The problem is what falls after that. North Carolina at Notre Dame. There is a game in Atlanta there, and that's a tricky one at Georgia Tech for them. And then Virginia Tech, Miami. So regardless of what they don't have a choice. They have to start well. And then they got to steal a couple at the end in order to go bowling this year. So their over-under for me is at 5.5. And I put it that way because of the start of the season. If they start well, Darren, they can win a couple of games at the end of the year to probably get them into bowl eligibility. If they happen to cough one up, maybe on the road at Pittsburgh September the 26th, maybe they lose against the Demon Deacons, or even before that, if they stumble somehow in one of those first 3 games, it's going to be a really long year in Durham. But I don't anticipate that. Now, I don't have them bowling. I do have them winning 5. I'm under 5.5.
All right. So, right off the bat, where we went almost the entire way with the SEC West without disagreeing until the very last one we did. We're going to disagree here. I have Duke starting 3-0. I think they stumble at Pittsburgh. I think I'm higher on Pittsburgh than most.
Okay.
So I'll leave that there. That becomes a big game for them. Like you said, if they win at Pittsburgh, that Wake Forest game becomes a little bit easier. There's some confidence going into that Wake Forest game. I think they start 3-0. I think before their bye week, they are 4-3. And then their last 3 games are against Virginia Tech, and at Miami. I think they win one of those games. And I think winning one gets them to 6-6.
Okay.
So I've got Duke at 6-6.
6-6 for Darren. You're jotting yours down, right? So we know where we stand at the end of the year.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I just want to
make sure. You're writing yours down, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're over. I'm under. I'm at 5-7. Darren's at 6-6, and then that leads us to Georgia Tech. And here's a very interesting, a very interesting football team. So I do not expect Georgia Tech to go out there and win 7 or 8 games this year. Okay. I don't know of many people actually, quite frankly, that do. Georgia Tech last year went 2-6 in the league, 3-9 overall. Now, in saying that, Jeff Collins came to Atlanta and basically ripped up every sheet of paper that was in the office and said, we're going to start from scratch, and in a couple of years you're going to look up and you're going to be pretty happy with what you see, because this is a division that you can take advantage of if somebody doesn't this year. If it's still kind of flip-floppy, in 2021, Georgia Tech might have a chance to make a run. 29 freshmen and sophomores played the majority of snaps on both sides of the football last year.
Ooh.
29. Every one of them's back. So they return players. Georgia Tech is going to beat somebody this year they're not supposed to beat. But I do have their over-under at 4.5 because of the schedule in which they play. Now, just like last week when we did the SEC West, Aaron, I look at this and say, all right, what games can they win? When you look at teams that finished at the bottom of the division the year before, if you're looking for a turnaround, what games can they win? All right. Well, let me start with the ones they're not going to win. They ain't going to win week 1 against Clemson.
Nope.
I don't think they're going to win week 3 against Central Florida. And I don't think they'll win week 4 against North Carolina or week 5 at Virginia Tech. Those are back-to-back on the road.
Yep.
So you're looking at a 1-4 start for the Yellow Jackets with their only win against Weber State in week 2.
Gardner-Webb, I think.
Gardner-Webb, yeah, in week 2 at home. So right out of the gate, they're at 1-4. Then here comes Virginia to town. Maybe. We'll get to Virginia in a minute, but maybe. At Pittsburgh, at Syracuse, Duke, manageable stretch there to maybe get a couple of wins. And then Notre Dame, November the 14th, and that's not a win. And then they finish the year against Miami and at Georgia. So if they start 1-4, they're not beating Notre Dame in my book, and they're not beating Georgia.
Nope.
So there's 6 losses already. Is there a 7th and an 8th in there? More than likely. Georgia Tech last year at 3-9. I do think they win 5 games.
Wow.
I'm going to give them 5. I think that they beat a team they're not supposed to beat. 2021, then they become a trendy pick to can they win I'm not saying they'll win the division in 2021. There will be the conversation of can they do this? Because, again, they're going to return essentially everybody next year as well. I'm going to give them 5 and over that 4.5.
Wow. We are not close. I thought the 4.5 was pretty high. I thought, basically, however many teams are in the West, 7? So we've done now 9 teams, and we've both been right around that half-game mark. I'm not close to 4. I think Georgia Tech is fortunate to win 2 games this year.
Wow.
They'll beat Gardner-Webb. I think they'll beat Gardner-Webb. They will maybe get Syracuse, maybe get Virginia, maybe. There's just, I agree with you. I think one of the wins that they get will be a game that they won't be favored in. I don't think they'll be favored in any game except for Gardner-Webb. So I will be – they're under. I'm very comfortable going under, and I wrote down 2 wins, maybe.
Okay. See, the reason that I'm giving them 5, Darren, is because I know the start to the season is incredibly difficult, and they will start the year poorly. But at the same time, you add those 5 games on to what that will at that point in time be 17 games that this group of players has played in. And the message clearly in Atlanta is still brick by brick.
It's got to be.
It's brick by brick, okay? We're not expecting to go out and win 10 games this year, brick by brick. And I think as that second half of the season turns, there will be opportunity in there. And I do think the top and the bottom of the coast are going to be a jumbled mess, which there's going to be a bunch of teams competing for that last spot. There's going to be a few teams competing for that top spot. There's probably not going to be a lot in between, in my opinion. But I'm giving Georgia Tech 5. You're not even giving them 3. You're giving them 2.
I'm giving them a maybe 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
North Carolina. The Tar Heels are the trendy team, one of I would say 2 trendy teams right now, maybe 3, to win the Coastal Division. 7-6 last year, 4-4 overall in the first year of Mac Brown. All right, so here comes North Carolina, probably going to have the best passing attack in the outside of Clemson in the conference. All right, Sam Howell returns. Their top 5 wide receivers return. Basically, their entire starting offensive line returns. As a matter of fact, they have 6 guys up front who have started, who return, in addition to more experience who have played. Their top 2 tailbacks return in Chapel Hill. Their defense, my opinion, can be rather average, and they'll still win a bunch of games this year. But real quick, the all-name team has a member from North Carolina. That is corner Storm Duck.
Yes.
Who had a hell of a year last year. We saw him real quick against South Carolina.
Storm Duck.
Now, is this going to be a good year for North Carolina? I think it is. Can it be a really good year? I think it can be. If it's going to be a special year, they've got to go 2-0 out of the chute, and I don't think they will. Whoever scheduled Central Florida to lead off the season wasn't thinking, because week 2 is Auburn and Atlanta. So both of their first 2 games are on the road, Orlando, Atlanta, and they're not easy.
Nope.
So there's a reality that they could be 0-2 after the first 2 games of the season. Before I go any further, do you think they'll be 0-2 after the first 2 games of the season?
I do not think they'll be 0-2.
Do you think they'll be 1-1?
Yes.
Are you making a prediction of which one of those games they're going to win? Is it the opener in Central Florida?
It is the opener against Central Florida.
Okay. JMU comes calling week 3, and they should win the game, although James Madison is no easy task.
Nope, that's another tough one.
But they should win the game. And then Georgia Tech, at Virginia, Virginia Tech, at Duke, at Miami, UConn, Pittsburgh, Boston College, and NC State. I have their 8.5 at over. Where do you sit on that side?
I agree with you. I have them at 9. So I think they get Central Florida. I think they'll beat JMU and Georgia Tech. I think the critical stretch for them are the Virginia teams, because by my guess, they're 3-1, then have to go to Virginia and then host Virginia Tech. If you clear that hurdle, you take confidence on the road to Duke, which you shouldn't need. You should be better than Duke this year if you're North Carolina. And then down to Miami. And if you're following this logic, then you're going down to Miami with, a 7-1 record? Mm-hmm. Or you're coming out of it with a 7-1 record. So you're going into it with a 6-1 record. And I've got them winning down there. So I believe that it's 9-3, and maybe I don't know exactly where the 3 losses are going to come in. I would assume one of the Virginia schools, maybe Miami, and Auburn. Auburn, I'm chalking up to a loss as well.
I'm going to tell you what, I'm not predicting them to win that game against Auburn, but I will not be shocked if they win that game against Auburn in the least bit.
I won't be. I am high on North Carolina. I think they win the division. I'm going through my my records here to make sure that actually plays out true.
Well,
but I think North Carolina can win the division. I think they're 9-3, 10-2. That's where I think they are.
Look, in this, they're going to score a lot of points. And so when I look at this schedule, I look and see, okay, who can stop them from scoring a lot of points? Defensively, who is really good on that side? And Virginia is really good defensively.
Mm-hmm.
And they're up next on the list here. And they do play that game in Charlottesville. Miami should be good defensively under Manny Diaz. Even though he's the head coach, don't misunderstand. He's still in charge of that defense down there, regardless of whoever the hell the defensive coordinator is. I don't even know. I don't think they lose to NC State. I don't think they lose to Boston College. I don't think they lose to Pittsburgh. I don't think they lose to UConn. So I think they win the last 4 games of the season.
I agree.
I don't think they lose to Duke. That's 5. I do think they lose one of those Virginia games, but they win one, so that's 6. I don't think they lose to Georgia Tech. That's 7. JMU 8, and then where's the other win? Is it Auburn? Is it Central Florida? Do they go to Miami and win that game? We're going to get to Miami in a minute. Miami is the key to all of this, if you ask me, and we'll tell you why in a little. All you have to do is reference the 2019 season for Miami. You can figure out real quick why they basically can control everything that happens in this division. But I'm going to give them 9. I'm going to give them 9 wins. I'm going over. Now, you and I are not predicting right now who wins the division.
Nope.
We are just predicting over/under win totals here. So I'm with you. I'm with 9. All right. So here comes Virginia. All right. So Virginia, I've got them at 7.5 from last year. Now Virginia, of course, won the Coastal Division at 6-2, 9-5 overall. Okay. They're not going to win week 1. And Virginia also is having to replace Bryce Perkins. And Virginia might replace Bryce Perkins with Katon Thompson, who is a transfer quarterback from Mississippi State. But he is not Bryce Perkins. He runs the football very well, but throwing it at under 50%, that's not going to get it done. Bryce Perkins was really, really good for the Wahoos. So they opened the year against Georgia, also in Atlanta. And I don't see that happening. Their defense, though, should be really good. They return pretty much every starter on that side of the football. They're going to have to win with defense because I don't know that they're going to score a ton of points. But more than likely 2-3 to start the year. They'll beat VMI, they'll beat UConn in weeks 2 and 3, and then they go to Clemson. They're not going to win there. And then they've got North Carolina, and I think North Carolina will more than likely win that. I think they will.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It could be a toss-up because it is at home. At Georgia Tech, that's a win. At Old Dominion, I think that's a win. Again, I mentioned Georgia Tech just a little. If you're asking me today, I think it's a win.
Right.
But again,
could Georgia Tech get them?
Is that where Georgia Tech starts to turn the season around in the middle of the year? Old Dominion, that's a win. And then Miami, Louisville, at Duke, Pittsburgh, at Virginia Tech. Whew. I've got them at 7.5, but I'm under 7.5. I don't think they can score enough points to win 8 games.
I'm with you. I've got them at 6. So, like you said, they're not beating Georgia. They'll beat VMI. UConn is a train wreck. It's interesting how many times UConn pops up on this ACC schedule, by the way. Old Dominion, Ricky Ronnie, former Penn State offensive coordinator, he's leading them, but they're not going to beat Virginia. And I think the last stretch, and I'll throw the last stretch being the last 5 games, that's just going to be too tough for Virginia to overcome. Miami and Louisville, at Duke and against Pittsburgh, chance to win both those games.
Absolutely.
At Virginia Tech, I don't think you win that rivalry game in Blacksburg. I'm higher on Virginia Tech this year than I think I even realized once I started doing this. So I've got them finishing at 6-6.
Yeah, I do too. I have them at 6-6 as well. Pittsburgh 4-4 last year, 8-5 overall, and I think this is going to be a tough year for Pittsburgh. I do think defensively that they'll be pretty good. They're not good on the offensive line. They have 4 quarterbacks, and they don't know which one they're going to go with. I know they have a transfer who's appealing for eligibility. I think he's come in from Arizona State. October through November for Pittsburgh is, I think, going to be fairly devastating. Let me read this schedule to you. Look, there's no reason for them to not be 3-0, maybe 4-0 with a win over Duke. They'll be Miami of Ohio. At Marshall, they should win that game, even though I think Marshall is a pretty good football team.
They are.
But I think Pittsburgh should win the
They
game.
are.
And then Richmond. And then you got Duke to round out September. But let me read the rest of the schedule. At Miami, Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, at Florida State, Virginia Tech, at North Carolina, at Virginia and Syracuse. All right, so where are wins in there? All right, Syracuse at the end of the year, Georgia Tech. I mean, I'm talking about where are these winnable games? Those 2. That's all I'm seeing. I mean, that's it. I don't think they go to Miami and win that game. I don't think they beat Notre Dame. I don't think they win at Florida State. I don't think they beat Virginia Tech. I don't think they win in Chapel Hill, and I don't think they win in Virginia. So I I'm gonna give Pittsburgh 5. I'm way under 6.5.
I am giving Pittsburgh 6, actually. So I'm under 6.5, but I'm giving them 6 because, like you said, Miami, Marshall, Richmond, they're going to start 3-0. I think Pitt gets Duke after that.
Okay.
So that gives them a 4-0 start. And I think they're going to finish 6-6. So like you also said, that October, November, that's not going to be very friendly to Pittsburgh. They can get Georgia Tech in that stretch. They can get Syracuse in that stretch. They're not going to beat Notre Dame. They're not beating Florida State or Tech, Va-Tech, or North Carolina or Virginia, I don't think. I might even bump that up to – I'm going to go 7-5 instead. I'm going to go over. I'm going 7-5 as I do this.
Wow.
For Pitt.
Yeah, I don't see that
because I think 6 is – I'm not going to say easily gettable, but starting 4-0 is very possible, with Duke being the only major roadblock, maybe at Marshall. And then,
well, they got to find a quarterback.
Okay, but if they can get Georgia Tech, which I think they will, again, I don't expect much out of Georgia Tech. I don't expect much out of Syracuse, and then pick up a win where we don't think they're going to win, and that's 7. Or I don't think they're going to win, and that's 7. So
Okay.
I'm going 7-5 on Pittsburgh.
You said you were a little bit higher on them than I am.
Mm-hmm.
That's certainly for sure. All right, here's Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech comes into the season coming off of a 5-3 campaign in the league, 8-5 overall, and the Hokies will open the year with Liberty, but then week 2 they will host Penn State. Your Nittany Lions will head to Blacksburg, and more than likely put a stamp on that one.
More than likely beat Virginia Tech.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think so.
That'll be a very, very – while it's a big game for Penn State, that'll be a real tough loss to stomach.
I think so. Virginia Tech had a very interesting 2019. They opened the year with a loss to Boston College, which most did not see that coming. It was a 7-point loss in Chestnut Hill. And then they win the next couple of weeks. Did not look good doing so, if you remember. It was against Old Dominion, and Furman squeaked by the Paladins in week 3, 24-17. Matter of fact, I think they scored late in that game to win the ball game.
Furman had them.
Yeah.
Furman had them and let it slip away.
And then after week 4, this is when you began to hear a lot of folks in Blacksburg with the cries of, let's move on from Justin Fuente, because Duke pounded the Hokies 45-10, but they would bounce back the following week. I remember predicting this game on my show on ESPN, thinking, wow, Virginia Tech has just fallen off the map. It's a tough way for Bud Foster to go out, and then they go to Coral Gables and they beat Miami. And they beat them in a shootout after only scoring 10 against the Blue Devils, 42-35, which Miami's coming up next, and this is another reference point for who the hell knows with Manny Diaz's squad. They beat Rhode Island, no problem. Remember the 6 OT game where they beat North Carolina because they stopped North Carolina from getting that 2-point conversion there in the 6th overtime. They turn around and lose a heartbreaking 1-point game on the road in South Bend at the time against 16th-ranked Notre Dame. They bounce back and throttle Wake Forest, who at the time was ranked 19th in the country. Matter of fact, last year Wake Forest started out 7-1 before injuries depleted the rest of the season. They shut out Georgia Tech. They shut out Pittsburgh. They'd outscored 2 ACC opponents at that point in time, 73-0 in back-to-back weeks. Regardless of how good they were, Georgia Tech and Pittsburgh, it was still 2 back-to-back shutouts. And then they lose to Virginia. They lose to Kentucky. They couldn't stop anybody on defense. They gave up almost 80 points in those 2 games combined, but they did score 60. Here's the thing with Virginia Tech. Hendon Hooker returns at quarterback. When he was healthy last year, he was good. 6-0 to start his career in games in which he was healthy. 6-0. But the end of the year wasn't kind to them, and then you look at that, you look back and you go, oh, okay, well, Virginia Tech, it was an okay type of year. They're 3-1 to start the year. I think they're 5-2 to start the season. Liberty is a win. Middle Tennessee State is a win. Although, by the way, that game's on the road. Interesting ball game. But they win.
Middle Tennessee's not beating Virginia Tech.
No. They beat North Alabama.
Recently up from Division II.
Yep. They beat Georgia Tech. That's 4. And then a couple of weeks later, after an off week. They beat Boston College. So they're 5-2 to start the season in my book with losses against Penn State and on the road at North Carolina. Maybe. And then there's Louisville, Pittsburgh, Miami, Duke, and Virginia. And that's why I have the over-under at 8.5. What do you have?
Oh, I'm over.
Okay.
I'm certainly over. Because if I look at this for Virginia Tech, and you just rattled off the schedule, there's only one game I'm confident in saying I really don't think they're going to win that game. And me being this confident could come with some bias, and that's the Penn State game. I don't think Virginia Tech wins that game, even though it's in Blacksburg. Virginia Tech makes the trip up to Happy Valley next year. So do I think they stumble again? Yeah, probably. There's probably another loss in there. But I've got them at 10-2 because I think there's another loss in there, and I don't know where it's going to be. But right now, if you tell me, is there a team on this schedule that, to me, looks better than Virginia Tech other than Penn State? My answer is no. So I've got them at 10-2, assuming one of those teams jumps up and bites them.
So I think the top 4 quarterbacks in the ACC, Trevor Lawrence is one by far. I think Hendon Hooker is in the top 4. I think Chase Bryce at Duke is ultimately going to be in the top 4.
Probably.
Transfer from Clemson. And I do think, who we're going to talk about next, Derek King, has a chance to be a top 4 quarterback to transfer from Houston with Miami. And by virtue, generally, teams that have really good quarterbacks generally have pretty good years. Let me add to Virginia Tech's conversation with Hendon Hooker. They return everybody on both lines of scrimmage. When you return guys on both lines of scrimmage, specifically every starter you had from the previous year, you generally are shaping up for a pretty good year.
Mm-hmm.
So the 10th game of the year, Miami comes to Blacksburg. And that is going, in my opinion, to probably decide whether this team is either first or second and third.
Yeah, I agree. I think, yes, absolutely.
That's what I think.
Big benefit for Tech that this game's in Blacksburg.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge. I actually have them at 8-4.
Really?
Yeah. I have them at 8-4. I think the way that I'm looking at this now, this is the one team where I think I could probably be the most wrong with this. But I look at this and think Penn State, North Carolina, at Louisville, those 3, Miami 4. I'm not pinning those all as losses. I'm just picking those games as games that could be games that they could potentially lose. And then a tricky game somewhere in there, whether that is at Pittsburgh, at Duke, you never know what could happen in a rivalry game against Virginia at the end of the year. I'm going to go with 8-4 with Virginia Tech. I'm taking the under on those guys. Believe it or not. I was a little more bullish on them a few days ago, but the more I've looked into this, even with returning guys on both sides of the line of scrimmage, replacing Bud Foster defensively, I don't know if that's a major change or not. Wait and see. But I'm going to go with 8-4.
All right, and I've got them at 10.
10-2.
Mm-hmm.
And here comes Miami, 4-4 last year, 6-7. Now this is the wild card and everything, and for rightfully so, for all the right reasons. Because if you go back and look at Miami, first of all, you're adding Rhett Lashley as the offensive coordinator, and you're adding Derek King as a transfer quarterback, and he will play immediately for the Hurricanes. Their offensive line, here are the positives. Their offensive line pretty much all the way back. On the defensive side of the football, they might have the best defensive end duo in the country. Greg Rousseau, Quincy Roche, he transferred in from Temple. He'll be ready to go this year, and he's eligible to play immediately. Between those two, almost 30 sacks combined last year. 30! Oof. Okay? 40 tackles for a loss between the two of those as well. Might, again, have the best defensive end combo in the country. It was 2019 is what makes everybody pause when you talk about the Hurricanes, because it was so up and down, and to finish the year, it was really down. Now, I do think they're talented. They started the year, and they lose their first two games by a combined 7 points. You remember that Florida game? Where did they play that game? In Orlando? Was it in Orlando when they played Florida? I think it was.
Okay.
And they lose 24-20 to start the season against the 8th-ranked Gators. They lose to North Carolina. That was a week after North Carolina beat South Carolina. Everybody all of a sudden took notice of Mac Brown's squad. Wait a second. These guys are 2-0 with wins over the Gamecocks and the Miami Hurricanes, who both, at the end of the year, would ultimately have losing records. They beat Bethune-Cookman. They wiped them out. They squeaked by Central Michigan. Everybody was, whoa, oh my God, you barely beat Chippewas, 17-12. And then they lose that game against Virginia Tech at home. Everybody thought that they win that game. Virginia Tech was stumbling coming into the game after getting throttled by Duke, but Miami rebounds to win. 20th ranked Virginia the following week, they beat them. I had Virginia winning that game, and Bryce Perkins, and they couldn't score. Miami stopped them totally, couldn't score either, but they did win 17-9. They lose a really weird game against Georgia Tech at home. Remember that? Overtime, 28-21. Everybody's like, what? What just happened?
How in the world? Yeah.
How did that happen? They go to Pittsburgh. They can't score, but defensively they win. They win against Florida State in fine fashion, 27-10. It was an ugly game, but they did win on the road in Tallahassee. They also beat Louisville, and they all of a sudden out of nowhere put up 52 points at home against the Cardinals. And everybody, oh my gosh, all right, they're 6-4. Miami's going to finish the year 8-4, right? Why do we say that? Well, because they had Florida International and Duke to finish the year. Although both games were on the road, Miami was on a 3-game winning streak. Defensively, they were playing really well. All of a sudden, they put up over 50 against Louisville. Yeah, they figured it out, Darren. They're going to roll right into the postseason, probably win a bowl game. They'll be the trendy pick to contend with Clemson. And then former Hurricane head man Butch Davis and Florida International beat them 30-24. And then they go to Durham, and they cough up another one, and they lose 27-17. And if you remember, Miami had no idea who their quarterback was. They had N'Kosi Perry. They had the Williams kid. They didn't know what the hell was going on. Perry was the freshman, I think, at the time. And then they could have given two craps about playing in that bowl game. They went and played in the Independence Bowl in Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Tech and Skip Holtz shut them out 14-0. It was a dreadful football game to watch in December. It was awful. It was like the bowl game. If you want to eliminate bowl games because they're boring, that was the one you choose to make your case. Nobody cared about being there.
Nope.
On their side. And they finished the year 6-7. Now, I gave you the positives. They do return a bunch of talent. They return a bunch of talent on the defensive side of the football. Manny Diaz can coach defense. That's why he's a head coach. Rhett Lashley's the OC. Derek King. They do return a bunch of offense. If they're not 3-0 to start the season,
Dude, they're 3-0 to start the season.
Look, I have respect for Temple, but Temple won't win that game. Wagner won't come close, and UAB won't win that game. But they go to Michigan State in Week 4, which is a very weird game. Very weird. Why the hell do you schedule that game, fourth game of the year, on the road at a Big Ten school who is itching to get back to the top of the Big Ten? I don't know.
It's strange to see a team so far south go that far north early in this. You just non-conference wise with two big name teams like this.
Yeah,
it is. It's an odd game.
The offense, I think, I'm not going to say the problems are solved, but they have been minimized big time with Rhett. Rhett Lashley's an interesting OC, but I do think he fits well with Derek King. I do think they have a quarterback. I have them over 8.5. I also have them at 9-3 with North Carolina, and whoever wins that game, in my opinion, more than likely will win the Coastal Division.
I am over, I think. I have 9-3, but do they slip somewhere that I'm not expecting? I do think they lose at Michigan State in that game. I do think they lose to North Carolina.
That game is in Coral Gables, but their home field advantage isn't any better than Wando's. Wando has.
Did I say at North Carolina?
Matter of fact, Wando and Somerville have a better home field advantage than Miami.
Yeah, because no one goes to those games.
No,
I didn't mean to say they go to North Carolina. Either way, I think they lose.
You did not say that.
Okay.
I was just stating where the game was.
Okay, cool. I think North Carolina takes advantage of their non-home field advantage and beats them in Coral Gables. And we just went over this Virginia Tech thing that I'm pretty high on the Hokies. So those are 3 losses in my book right there. And do I think with a transfer quarterback in there, that there isn't going to be something weird like the Georgia Tech game last year. I've got him at 9-3, but I'm leaning. I'll change that because I'm leaning more towards 8-4. That there's another loss in there.
Okay,
and I'll go 8-4 with them. So I'm going to go under the 8.5.
All right, I've got him at 9-3. Certainly, the two games that stick out to me the most difficult on the schedule: on the road at Michigan State, on the road at Virginia Tech. Florida State will come to town this year. We'll talk about the Noles later on this week. And North Carolina comes down. They don't draw Louisville and they don't draw Clemson from the Atlantic Division, which obviously is a win in itself for Miami. But I'm gonna give them 9 wins. I think though of those 9 wins, I think that they probably win one of those games that we might not think they're going to win, either at Virginia Tech and Michigan State. And I also think that they lose a game, like you said a minute ago, that we probably don't think that they should lose. Whether that is on the road at Virginia, on the road at Wake Forest, and quarterback Sam Hartman, who is a graduate of Oceanside Collegiate Academy right here in Mount Pleasant, on the road at Georgia Tech, or, again, I don't think there's a home field advantage at Miami. So, does Florida State come into town and beat them? Do they go on the road and upset Michigan State? See, this is the thing with a young head coach. Do they go on the road and upset a team like Michigan State and then sleepwalk through Pittsburgh? Because they have proven in the past that they can do this. So we don't have any reason to believe that they don't do it until they prove us wrong.
It's like a story I brought up a week or so ago, being with Citadel Baseball and Fred Jordan and too much early success.
Yeah.
If you go to Michigan State with a new staff, with a new quarterback, you go up there and you beat them, and all of a sudden you're 4-0, and woohoo!
Right.
It's funny to say if you go up there and beat them, it could turn around and backfire on you, but it could. I don't think they go to East Lansing and win that game, but they could. I mean, I think that has a chance to be a competitive, maybe lower scoring, but competitive game, entertaining game, and they could win that game. I don't think it happens.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't the way that we look at it today. But you never know with this Miami football team. Like I said, I thought as we started this segment, which has been a very long one, I thought. And looking at my over-unders here, it was exactly what I predicted it would be. I thought there would be a very stark difference between the top and the bottom in this division this year. I have 2 teams at 9-3, 1 at 8-4. I have 3 at 5-7, and then I got Virginia right there in the middle at 6-6. So very top-bottom heavy, as opposed to a bunch of 6-7, 7-6s, 8-5s, that type of thing. We did see a very thick middle last year, where you had both Pittsburgh and Virginia Tech at 8-5, Miami at 6-7, North Carolina at 7-6, even Duke in there at 5-7. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. I think there will be the haves and the have-nots in this division. Although I think 2021 is going to be a really good year for the Coastal.
I would agree with that. I'm with you with that entire statement, because I've got Virginia Tech on the 9-3, 10-2 line. I've got UNC around 9-3, and I've got Miami teetering between 9-3 and 8-4. It's the three of those, and everybody else.
Yeah. I'm totally with you on that. Those three, one of those three will win this division.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff, as always.
Yeah, it's
right
fun.
here on the JB and Goldwater Show. Still to come this week, it's the ACC's Atlantic Division. You probably all predict that we think Clemson will win that division, but that's not what we're picking. We're picking over-under win totals.
But yes, I do think that Clemson will win that division.
I think so. I think they'll win this conference as well. And then we also have the SEC East coming up later on this week, so saving Clemson and Carolina until the end.
Got some breaking news for the next segment.
All right, breaking news ahead. So hang tight. Final segment of the JB and Goldwater Show is up next.
Honey Baked Ham in Somerville and in Mount Pleasant is your home for catering and lunch. Honey Baked Somerville, owned by former Gamecock right-hander Mike Cisco, is just off the interstate, and they are ready to cater to your next business or family meal. Plus, drop in for an incredible sandwiches daily for lunch. The Mount Pleasant location is at the foot of the Ravenel Bridge and always ready to serve and cater to your next meals as well. Plus, delivery is available. Honeybake.com to find your menu today.
What's up, guys? It's JB. Obviously, things have been kind of crazy with the coronavirus taking over our lives. We're stuck inside with family, finding ways to be creative and probably tapping the liquor cabinet a little bit. If you don't have Patrick Davis's Whiskey Jam in yours, put on your mask and gloves and head to Bottles or Burris liquor stores here in Charleston. The Blackberry is my personal favorite on the rocks, but the original Whiskey Jam is Patrick's. So either way, you're winning with Whiskey Jam. WhiskeyJam.com, PatrickDavis.com.
DB's Cheesesteaks, the tastiest, juiciest, and now award-winning cheesesteaks in the Low Country. DB's Cheesesteaks delivers, and not just in quality. Download DoorDash, Uber Eats, or your delivery app of choice and have it dropped off at your doorstep. Original chicken, buffalo chicken, even pizza cheesesteaks, not to mention incredible cheeseburgers, massive hot dogs, and dynamite hoagies. It's all there for you and your family. DB's Cheesesteaks in West Ashley. DB'scheesesteaks.com.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
The JB and Goldwater Show.
That's us. Because we play this.
And there are these guys in a band on stage bouncing on trampolines, and one of them is playing a vacuum cleaner on his face. It was the greatest thing I'd ever seen. This band was going for it as hard as they could. I've never seen anything like it. And I said to the bartender, I was like, who is this band? Oh, this is a band from New Hampshire called Fish.
Edwin McCain. That conversation just a couple months ago when we first started our program here, and of course accompanied by one of the greatest bands to ever come out of the state of South Carolina, the Blue Dogs.
That's right.
All right.
I like that Isabel song. I really do.
The Blue Dogs, Bobby Houck plays out at the Windjammer a lot. I think he's been doing some just acoustic stuff out there lately, but they're just fantastic. Bobby's one of the fine folks in music. You can ask guys like Edwin, Patrick Davis, and Darius Rucker, and all these other. They're the best. They are just absolutely the best. All right, we do have some breaking news to get to, Darren.
So it does look like the worst kept secret in baseball is going to come true. It looks like the minor leagues will be canceled this season. There was a conversation this morning. I don't know if it was Zoom or a big old conference call or something. But word is, I don't think it's completely official, but it is going to happen. The minor leagues will shut down for this year, which is devastating news for the minor league organizations, the front office staffs, and certainly the players as well. It's a fabric of our country, if you ask me, minor league baseball, and it's done for the year.
Yeah, well, very well said there. Minor league baseball has a couple of major flaws. Most importantly, minor league players need to be paid more.
Absolutely.
We oftentimes complain about salaries and wages and equal rights and things like that in this country. I'm going to tell you right now, none of you, nobody works as cheap as minor league baseball players do, because these guys show up to the ballpark early. If you think I'm lying, you have no idea how the sport of baseball works at a professional level. You show up early, you leave late, you get a few $100 a week at the most. Some of these guys like $250 a week, and you start wiping out taxes and things like that, or start putting in taxes, it wipes you out quickly. Yeah, but this is what I often hear, Darren. You worked in minor league baseball, you know exactly how it goes. Yeah, but all these guys, they all get these signing bonuses. You really think everybody gets that big of a signing bonus? If you ever truly looked at the rosters in minor league baseball, give me a break.
No,
it's not that widespread where everybody has hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars floating around. It's a very minute percent.
You hear the term bonus baby flying around a lot because maybe there's one of those guys on your team.
Yeah.
And maybe that bonus baby has enough money to hook up your clubhouse with some extra stuff.
Right.
But the majority of minor leagues are roster fillers. And now they may exceed expectation. I mean, there are plenty of guys.
Some do.
Yeah, plenty of them. But that's the majority.
Yep. And nobody forces a lot of these guys to hang around. Some of these guys hang around because that's all they know and that's what they love, and whatever the case is. Some of them get out of there a little bit earlier in their careers and say, "This just isn't for me." The grind, the bus rides, these guys. I'm telling you, these guys are essentially working at like $1 or $2 an hour when you calculate time spent at the ballpark every week for the amount of money that they make.
But look back on some of the stories we've seen over the last couple of months. Teams fighting about paying minor league players $400 a week. Right. That's what they're fighting on right now. And whether or not they can afford that, or is it going to be $3? I mean, that's what we're talking about. They're not making any money at all.
No, they're not. And I don't know. I think that it is up to the organization, Darren, as to whether they will continue to pay these players throughout the rest of the year, because I know some of them have picked up tabs for these minor leaguers, and I hope that they will do that. But what's about to happen here, and a lot of these are going to be names that you don't know, and you'll never know. But what's about to happen here is a mass exodus of players from baseball's system. There's a lot of people who are not going to be able to survive on this, or it's not going to be worth it for them to be able to survive on this. Because they can't get through the rest of the year without any income at all.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to have to. Some of them are just going to say, you know what, I'm done. I've been doing this for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 9 years, 10 years, whatever it is. I'm going to go ahead and turn my attention to what I want to do professionally from here on out, get into the business world. Whether they turn to insurance or real estate or whatever they decide that they want to do, and they're going to move on from baseball. And as we move forward, they were already trimming minor league teams throughout the country anyways, eliminating them in a lot of small towns. You might even see more of that. I don't know. But minor league baseball is going to be incredibly reshaped over the next 365 days, less than that. And I just feel for these kids and some of these men who've been doing this a while. That's from the player side. From the fan side, Darren, you just said a minute ago, it's been a fabric of our country for a long time. Let me give a couple of quick examples on that just right here in tiny old South Carolina. There are ballparks who, if you've spent time in baseball in this state, you've seen a lot of them. One right here in town is the old College Park downtown. There are some great parks. Duncan Park up in Spartanburg. There's one in Sumter right here. The old Mets ballpark right off of Assembly Street in Columbia. And there are plenty others in this state and all across the country. Minor league baseball has been around forever. It has rallied the troops, so to speak, in small towns in America for over a century. I mean, this was the social activity, and we're lucky enough to be in a town where there's a team here that cares greatly about minor league baseball in the community, and they make it more than just about the baseball when you go visit the ballpark. But there's a lot of communities that don't care as much as the Charleston River Dogs do, or the Greenville
Drive,
mm-hmm. or the Columbia Fireflies.
Yep.
This is devastating. This sucks, is what it does.
Yeah.
This sucks. And we'll never know who some of these guys are, but as you said a minute ago, there's some guys who would have broken through who maybe none of us ever knew about, and we'll never get to see those guys.
And the financial impact on the organizations is you can't even overstate the impact. I mean, Pensacola, the Blue Wahoos, they're a Double-A team. They used to be affiliated with the Reds. I'm not sure who they're with right now. That's irrelevant. They've been using their ballpark as an Airbnb, and they've been selling it. It's a really cool idea. And they've been praised for recouping a third of the money that they're probably going to lose. A third of it, which means they're losing still 2/3 of that money.
Wow.
And they are in the forefront of teams that are finding creative sources of revenue. So other teams are going to take a bath, and it's going to affect a lot of people, a lot of very good people. And it would not surprise me at all if we see a couple of these teams not able to financially continue. That wouldn't surprise me.
No. It's tough. That is tough breaking news. We all expected this news, but nonetheless, it is still difficult to digest. But no minor league baseball here in 2020. All right, more breaking news here as we finish the show. This is to my inbox, so I'm going to pull this up here. The Southeastern Conference has postponed media days.
Really?
Originally planned for July 13th through the 16th. SEC media days have been postponed according to multiple sources. And I am waiting on an official release from the SEC here in just a minute. But the league had previously adjusted its media event in Atlanta to be a virtual-only event, July 13th through the 16th. But the league has confirmed that they will not take place July 13th to the 16th, and dates and times are still to be determined. And that is all we know as of now.
That tells me they're waiting on more information. That tells me that the SEC doesn't want to rush to do these media days if there are other more pressing needs on their table.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if I don't usually get an inbox directly from the Southeastern Conference, but I don't have that. So the SEC has not officially issued their statement, but it will not take place.
Okay.
So that is that's not good.
No, that's not a great sign. I'll give you one a little bit better. Josina Anderson just tweeted out that she just got off the phone with Jadeveon Clowney, told her at this time he intends to sign with the team before the season starts if everything still goes on time. He said, "No, I have not yet narrowed down a final team. I'm still open."
Yeah. But he will be set to play before the season starts.
That's his hope.
Whenever the season starts.
Yeah. Yep.
Whew. Well, all right, there we go. It's about how we're scheduled to wrap up today. I will give you real quick this before we get to our National Days calendar. Ozark, woo! They're coming back for a final season 4, and it's going to be a 14-episode season 4.
Nice,
but it is their final season. It is split into 2 7-episode parts.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up because Billions was promoting this mid-season finale thing that they had now 2 weeks ago, and I've never heard the term mid-season finale until Billions did it, but I guess Ozark's going to do the exact same thing.
Ozark's going to do the same thing. So one final season with Ozark. Visit our friends at Patriots Point, patriotspoint.org, holycitydrivein.com. Friday night, it's back. Drive-in movies. Over at Patriots Point right here in Mount Pleasant. They present our national anthem every day at noon right here on the JB and Goldwater Show. Thanks to Chris Half and the staff at Patriots Point, home of the Laffey, the Clamagore, the Vietnam War exhibit, and, of course, the USS Yorktown. What day is today? What day is today? The final day of June.
My minions are not being responsive today.
Yeah, they're sleeping.
Yeah.
Tired. They're tired of this crap. Today, it is National Meteor Watch Day.
Oh, yeah.
I love a good meteor shower.
Absolutely. Maybe it's aliens. Never know.
Reach out to Rob, Dave, and Bill, and let's see if they've got any meteors on the weather agenda tonight.
Yep.
It is also Social Media Day.
Is that your least favorite day?
Let me add to that. How about do this? To celebrate Social Media Day, be kind to somebody on social media today. Say something positive.
Yeah.
How about
is that part of the day? Be kind?
Nope.
Oh, I like it.
Just says post and celebrate.
Post and celebrate.
So not a big day. Social Media Day and National Meteor Watch Day. Tomorrow is if you are a fan of dessert, tomorrow is a pretty good day.
Desserts tend to dominate this thing. Yeah. There tend to be more days for desserts than anything.
Yeah. So tomorrow's not bad. It's not a great week for National Day calendar, but except for the 4th of July, of course.
Yeah, I mean, it ends with a bang.
It's on everybody's calendar. All right, thanks so much to David Cloninger. I know music should hit here in just a minute, and then we'll be set to get out of here. But thanks so much to our friend David Cloninger. Covered a lot today. Hopefully you, if you are just tuning in, you're an hour and 58 minutes late, but we appreciate it anyways. If you'd like to go back and listen to our over-under projections on the ACC's Coastal Division, you can do that by going to jbandgoldwatershow.com. Thanks for watching on the Podbean app or listening on the Podbean app, watching Facebook, YouTube. and Twitter. The breaking news to conclude our program today, as Darren said, minor league baseball no more in 2020. It is canceled. Hoping to be back in 2021. And also, SEC Media Days will not take place on July 13th through the 16th. It has been postponed. Waiting on official word from the Southeastern Conference.
Got an interesting afternoon ahead, I think.
Yeah, we do. It's going to be a busy sports day, so Darren and I will stay tuned, and we'll have all of this for you tomorrow. And J.C. Sherbert will join us tomorrow as well. Good topics for him to cover with us as well. Thanks a lot, Darren, as always.
Thank you, man. Make it fun.
Thanks for listening and watching today. For my good buddy Darren Goldwater, I'm Jamie Bradford. We appreciate you tuning into the JB and Goldwater Show. And we'll see you back tomorrow in the month of July at noon right here.